China's draconian social credit system. Ooh, terrible. More examples of the monstrous China big bad wolf, right? No, actually, I love it. It's fantastic. And we're going to talk about why right now. So, I reviewed several articles. My notes are right here. I reviewed several articles on Fox News, Globe and Mail, The Guardian, and especially the best one was an article on Wired. Go read that one. Supposedly draconian, horrifying social credit system. And so isn't a ruined credit score like the kind of thing that happens to you back in America? Isn't that draconian? I mean, you can't do much of anything except in cash if your credit score is ruined, and even if it wasn't your fault. You can't stay in a hotel or rent a car because you need a credit card. It's required. Well, first of all, as might be expected, it's not accurate to call this China's social credit system. It's not about that. It's about tracking things that you've done where you have broken the law. Illegal things. Things like, I didn't pay my taxes. Court ordered me to pay a fine, and I'm in contempt of court. Okay, so in America you get punished by going to jail. Okay, fine. Here in China, they said, well, wait a minute. Okay, if you've broken the law, you're to some degree a criminal, then we're not going to let you get on the train. We're not going to let you travel. We're not going to let you get on an airplane. Oh, okay, well, I guess you better learn to behave and not break the law. So what China's done is they've combined it all. And this is great because it makes people behave well. Don't you want people to behave well? No. I don't want people to behave well. I think that people should be allowed to smoke on planes and not get in that much trouble if they do it. And a train is the same as a plane. It's something that is like a tube thing with seats on each side, and it goes in that direction from point A to point B. It happens to be on the ground rather than up in the air, but it's an enclosed thing, and you're not allowed to smoke on it, and you get in a shitload of trouble if you do smoke on it. In China, in fact, if you smoke on it, and not the first offense, okay, the first lie, they like to tell you, but ultimately, if you pay your fine and then you do it again, then they're like, we're banning you from letting you get on the train in the first place. Thank you, pregnant moms, old people, and children on trains who shouldn't have to tolerate the shit of a rude, bad-behaving person who smokes on a train. Screw them. Let them not be able to get on a train again. I'm all right with that. I mean, they didn't get it the first time. Okay, it's like if you do something bad to me, okay, I'm going to slap you on the wrist. Great. If you do something bad to me, I'm going to break your legs. Okay, I'm clear that the punishment or the consequence is going to be worse. I'm made aware of that in advance. Yeah, reasonable societies all over the world do that. So far, I really like China's social credit system. Now, let me read. Why wouldn't you be glad that they came up with a system to stop people from breaking the law besides just throwing them in jail? I mean, that's what this is. It's a creative way of making people behave besides just threatening them with jail time and or big fat fines. I mean, that's what we do in the United States. And what's the result that we have there? We have the largest percentage of incarcerated population in the world. Yeah, okay, that seems to be going really, really well. Let's further clarify. What's going on with this social credit system in China? It's not yet one single system tracking your bad behavior. Again, like back in America, there's different systems that track your bad behavior. And one private system, for example, that is sort of mistaking as the single big one is Sesame Credit, Juma by Alibaba. But that's just one. But then they kind of start getting integrated, and then there's some confusion, and then sometimes people get caught up in it and shouldn't get blacklisted. And yes, that's unfortunate, and that happens. And yes, in the United States, there are innocent people in jail. Mistakes happen. The exception to the rule happens. It's really unfortunate that in the justice system, sometimes an innocent person is put in jail, which happens everywhere. And it will also be sometimes unfortunate if someone gets improperly and unfairly caught up in the social credit systems that are here in China, no different than anywhere else. That's unfortunate. That's not a reason to criticize the system. You need the justice system, okay? You just wish it would be better. And make sure that those kinds of mistakes don't happen, even in America, even in Europe, anywhere in the world. So you have a separate system. It's run by the Department of Transportation. It's that lovely announcement by the lady who says when you get on board, not only will you be fined, but you will be points on your social credit system. Oh, okay. So don't smoke. It's just, don't smoke. I don't know what else to say, right? It's great. Just you're aware of the consequence of what's going to happen to you, so you're not going to. It's really bad shit. If I smoke on the train, oh, I'm having a Nick fit. I won't be allowed to board the train again. Well, the first time they're just going to find me, and then what, the second time? Shit, they might ban me from trains. Well, shit, I better not smoke. Again, thank you for everybody else on the train. Terrific. Other information. According to the National Public Credit Information Center, Chinese courts banned, courts is the key word. A dear friend of mine is an attorney in China. If you think that Chinese people don't get a fair shake in court, that's not true. The Chinese court system is very fair. A defendant with an attorney, a plaintiff with an attorney, everybody gets to present their evidence, and it's the real deal, okay? So, according to the National Public Credit Information Center, Chinese courts banned would-be travelers from buying flights 17.5 million times by the end of 2018. So Chinese courts banned you from flying. Obviously, you did something wrong. Don't American courts also ban you from flying, take your passport, order you to stay in town, etc., if you are under investigation, etc.? This is just normal. No, nothing surprising here. Citizens placed on blacklists for social credit offenses were prevented from buying train tickets 5.5 million times. Again, my comment is, good. People need to be punished for behaving badly in every society. And they are in every society. Social credit offenses range from things like not paying your individual taxes or fines. Do you mean that if I have 10 or 20 or 50 unpaid parking tickets in downtown Manhattan, that they'll take away my driver's license? Good. Pay your frickin' parking tickets. You broke the law. Not a problem. This isn't communism. It's just justice. It doesn't matter about the system of government. So stop trying to say this is the Chinese communist big bad wolf. That's bullshit. It's not. For example, with the government system, if you want to be removed from the blacklist, you can either pay your bill or go back to the court and appeal. According to a researcher at the University of Zurich, bring your money to the court, pay the fine that you were ordered to pay in the court, and then you're removed from the blacklist. I don't have a problem with that. Do you? And I'm going to share an example with you in a minute that you're not going to believe. It's incredible. The recent report also said that 128 people were prevented from leaving China because of unpaid taxes. The report said 3.5 million people or companies paid taxes or debts they had owed because of the social credit system. Thank you. I think that's a good thing. And then one of these ridiculous articles, I think the Guardian one, goes on to say is that the problem, quotes some idiot, some anti-Chinese negative bashing political hack moron, that says, well, the problem is in China is there's no such thing as rule of law. Did you spend a few minutes listening to the last thing that I was just telling you? The problem in China is there's no such thing as rule of law. Regulations that can be largely apolitical on the surface can be political when the Communist Party of China decides to use them for political purposes. Okay, first of all, that's two completely separate sentences. One, in China there's no such thing as rule of law. That is obviously the most ridiculous thing any of us have ever heard. There's lots of rule of law in China. Secondly, regulations and things are unfairly applied based on politics. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I mean, like that doesn't happen in European countries, American countries. It happens everywhere. Okay, liberal bias. Don't get me started. I don't even want to go into it. Right? You may be docked, credited, given bad score for spreading false information. That's called defamation, right? And or taking drugs. Again, a crime. Again, my response, thank you. First of all, this is weird. Credit score taken, your score, like you get charged with a bad score thing, like what? Like just like a misdemeanor back in America for what? For taking drugs on a train? For taking drugs on a plane? This is kind of a weird one, and it's not going to happen very often, especially in China, because they're much more strict on drugs in the first place. Which reminds me about San Francisco's subway system. In San Francisco subways, riders enter subways which are now lined with dozens of homeless drug addicts. The police do, and continue to do, nothing. The city hasn't solved the problem, and of course they won't. The billionaires and the bureaucrats just look the other way, throw a few band-aids at it occasionally just to look good. They claim that they care about the poor people, but they don't. They just suck everybody dry. I'm not exaggerating. The problem of homelessness and drug addiction is rising dramatically in the United States. Okay? So, okay, I'm sorry. I've digressed on society's ills and concerns, which, though are hard to deny, are deeply disturbing. And these ills don't exist in China. I mean, the degree to which those kinds of ills here in China, sorry, it bothers you for me when I tell you that, generally speaking, for 700 million people here in China, life is more like Disneyland than it is anything else. Okay? Society doesn't have all these kinds of insane social ills that are happening now in the declining West. And that is upsetting. It upsets me. It should upset you. But back to the China social credit system. Yes, let me talk about the example that I mentioned I was going to tell you the story. It's about a gentleman by the name of Liu Hu, and he likes to complain a lot publicly about problems in China and corruption in China. So they regard him as a troublemaker, and he's known to be this troublemaker kind of guy. And you can get in a lot more trouble for publicly complaining about things that the government does in China than you would in the United States. You might, in the private sector in the United States, get your reputation or career ruined by saying the wrong thing, but it's happening in the private sector. In China, the government itself doesn't tolerate these things, and again, that's a separate debate and discussion. But the point is, here in this story, is that Liu Hu, H-U, he had gone to court, and it was declared that he was guilty of defamation of character, some guy, some case. And the guy was ordered to pay $1,300 US in damages for his defamation. Okay, so once again, you have a court order. I won't go into the details, but I know lots of people back in America who have court orders that were really, really unfair. Years ago, I had a court order against me that I know was based 100% on a lie, It was false, it was fake, and it made my life miserable. It was a restraining order, and it was completely and totally unnecessary, and it was just done as a manipulation. But nevertheless, the court says it's a court order, so you better frickin' abide by it, or, you know, you're, quote, in contempt of a court order, you're going to jail, right? Okay, so what happened to Liu Hu? He was ordered by the court, he had a court order to pay his $1,300 in damages. $1,300 in damages to the person for whom he was found guilty for defamation. He didn't pay the money. Next thing he knows, he finds himself banned from being able to, he goes to book an airline ticket, and it says, oh, you're a court order, you're a criminal guy, you're a court order you didn't fulfill, you're not allowed to fly. Is this an example of how the Chinese social credit system is going to ruin people? And that's how ruin everybody's life? I don't think so. And that's how this single story of this guy proving how horrible the Chinese social credit system is. I'm laughing a bit. You know, Hulk Hogan was, BuzzFeed was found guilty of defamation of Hulk Hogan, and what did the court order them to pay? It was like $200 million or something like that. Okay, not $1,300. So this is like a joke to me. Okay, so this is the example that they put up as an example of showing you how horrible China's social credit system is. Sorry, I don't think so. Other minor violations include using expired train tickets. Again, that's theft. That's like, you know, $100 train ticket. You try to use an expired train ticket. That's like trying to get on the train without buying a ticket. That's the same thing as like fucking stealing a car, or trying to get on a plane without a ticket. Smoking on a train, or, and I love this last one, you will supposedly get some points against you for not walking a dog on a leash. Once again, good. I don't happen to like dogs. I don't dislike them. I've had them in the past, but in the end, I don't want dogs. And nothing upsets me more than when people have their dogs not on leashes, and then kids get attacked and bit, and it happens. And I can tell you, just from my own personal life, 3 or 4 of those stories. So, yeah, put your freaking dog on a leash. Thank you. Let me close. I'm not saying you have to like any or all of what I'm saying, but it's factually reasonable and sensible and correct. That you have to admit. I'm not saying that you do have to know the law in the country in which you live. Overall, there are lots of laws that you might strongly feel are really unreasonable and crazy in the United States, or in Europe, or in China, or even in Singapore. Why would I bring up Singapore? Singapore is one of the nicest, most peaceful, happy, successful societies in the world. You've surely heard that. It's like a frickin' model of economic and societal stability. Yet, there are rules there which you probably think are absolutely bananas. Do you recall the case of the foreigner who got sentenced to be caned because he scratch-keyed, vandalized someone's car? Yeah, remember it like became this big political brouhaha? Again, that's crazy. Even I think that's crazy. It's Singapore. The other one is chewing gum. Okay, in Singapore, I think it's like a $500 fine if you spit your gum out on the street. Incredible. Okay. That's it. I'm done. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you. In the end, the questions and concerns revolve around the balance between your individual freedom and the value of maintaining a harmonious, stable society for everyone. Different countries have different thinking about that, different policies, different government, but in the end, it's a balance between those two things. In America, there has been tremendous decline of society because there's been too much of a focus on individual freedom, not enough focus on what's best for the society. The billionaires and bureaucrats raping and pillaging the middle class over the last 20 years is a really good example of that in America. Okay, they didn't care what they did as society, they just got themselves rich via Wall Street. I won't mention names. I really want to, though. In China, It's far from perfect, and I'm not defending it. I'm just telling you the reality that there is much more of a emphasis on the idea that we all need to contribute to making sure that we live in a harmonious and stable society for everyone's benefit, and that means giving up some individual freedoms. We can go into lots of details on that. It's inconvenient, etc., etc., but overall, it works, and that's reality. So let's see how the China social credit system situation continues to reveal itself over the next few months and years. Thanks everyone. Mario Kalala with the Dragon Wars on.